What's up, everybody? Welcome to Metal Remains Backstage. This is Manuel from Madrid, and we have Mr. Matt Barlow. Hi, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks. How are you?
Thank you for joining us this Sunday. It's quite hot here in Spain, so forgive me if I'm sweating. It's not only the nerves of speaking with one of my favorite singers of all time. It's also the heat, which is it's very prominent right now. How is it everywhere where you are right now?
It's hot here as well. We're having a heat wave situation this week. It's going to be hot for several days, close to 100 Fahrenheit. So it's pretty hot.
Pretty hot indeed. Well, that's the great weather for summer festivals, which I'm pretty sure everybody's going to them. And on their way to traveling, I wanted to ask you, Matt, what have you been listening to recently?
What have I been listening to? Well, I've been listening to a lot of Ashes of Aries and Iced Earth, actually, because we're getting ready for a tour in the fall, so I've been listening to that a lot, kind of gearing up for a tour.
Yeah, that's perfect. I actually have been also listening to a bit of Ashes of Aries, some clips that have been released for your upcoming New Messiah album, which is about to be released on the 18th of July. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, tell us about the New Messiahs. What's the state of Ashes of Aries as it stands today, looking forward for the new record?
Yeah, so our new record, it's going to be released. We've actually had the record done for it's been pretty much in the can for about a year. We've been waiting on the release. Our record label merged with another record label in Germany, so it's just basically we kind of became a little bit bigger and a lot more artists, obviously with the new merger.
Yep.
So we've been waiting on the release, which kind of sucks for us because we're sitting here with all these new songs going, man, I can't wait for people to hear. But I understand it's the business, right? So we've been patiently waiting, and now is the time. And we've been releasing some singles, some videos, and things like that for people to get a little bit of a taste of it.
Yes.
But we're really proud of the record. Really happy that it's going to be released very soon, and I hope we're just really looking forward to the feedback on it. Hopefully, folks dig it. I think it's a natural progression for us as a band.
Yep.
This being our record, so we're definitely in the realm of what we've done before, but we tried to do some things differently as well, and kind of lean into the things that have been our influences for a long time. Again, there's some death metal influences in there for sure from Freddie. Some more progressive metal stuff in there as well as some Bay Area thrash tunes. That is some of the stuff that I really enjoyed growing up, and I love that kind of music, that style. So I'm big fan of obviously the big three and other bands like Forbidden and Testament and just on and on. There's any number of bands that influenced me as I was growing up and kind of cutting my teeth in metal.
Okay, great. And I'm also looking forward to the tour that you're bringing to Europe, this Dark Saga tour, which of course will give us the feeling of back in the day when you were in Iced Earth. What can you tell us about the preparation for the set list on this tour?
Yeah, well, I mean, the cool thing is the set list is pretty much spoken for outside of a few tunes that we'll be doing with Ashes of Aries. We're going to highlight at least a few songs that will highlight our discography as Ashes of Aries, but primarily the show is going to be, the bulk of it is obviously going to be the Dark Saga. That's just it's a whole record. So we can't do like half and half. It's primarily going to be the Iced Earth stuff.
Yeah, because this is a full story, right? So it's
correct.
It's from the beginning to end an epic. story, which is, of course, one of the fans' favorites across the years. And it's great that you're bringing it back to the stages. Because as the world stands right now, we all can look forward to a bit of uh, enjoyment, and this album is a special one that brings it to the table. It contains some of my favorite songs, of course. What made this album stand out for you in particular as one of the main performers on it?
Well, for me, it was even though so obviously, Burn Offerings will always hold a special place in my heart as being the first Iced Earth record that I performed on.
Mhm.
Uh, but as has been stated before, and John has stated it before in interviews and things like that, it represented also a kind of a dark time for Iced Earth, because it was a kind of a transitional time, and there was a lot of conflict with the record label at that time and everything. So like a lot of that, even though it is a fan favorite for sure, it's very, very dark. There's just a lot of dark,
Hey, it's in the name.
and it can't right, and it comes out right. But for Dark Saga, oddly enough, is that record sort of brought the light back, I think, to Iced Earth and to John as a writer, and certainly for me, being part of that process. It just was a better time. It was really meaningful. We started working on that record almost immediately once we got back from doing a small tour in support of Burn Offerings, and it just seemed like it just flowed. Like John was he was just in a groove and just writing, and just everything went really, really well. And the songs, obviously, I think that there was a lot of love put into that record, as the songs, you can hear it in the songs.
Yeah, you can feel
Even though there's some very heavy topics and things like that, there's just some stuff that's just a lot of love and light, and light. If light can come from a story of darkness, then I guess that would be what I would say. It is, at least for me, at least my opinion, and I think the opinion of a lot of people who, this record really started them off with Iced Earth. There were a lot more. I don't want to say hits, but I guess more. Yeah, I mean, I'll say it,
yeah,
hits.
of course they are.
They were that was the Iced Earth hit record. You had so many. I Died for You. You got The Hunter. You got Question of Heaven. Like, all of these songs were just really big fan favorites, and it started like almost instantly. As soon as we went to tour on that record, everybody knew the songs. Everybody was singing along with the songs. It was crazy. It was like a revelation, I think, for Iced Earth, and that's why we want to celebrate this record, because it was such a revolutionary record for Iced Earth. Certainly for me personally, performing on that record and performing those songs live, and this would be the first time that anybody's, well, I'm not going to say anybody. Maybe there's been somebody covering the record or something like that. But as far as I know, this is the first time anybody's done it in its entirety, including Iced Earth. We've come close. We've done like a ton of the songs and things like that. But I don't think Iced Earth, at least not when I was performing in Iced Earth, we never played the entire record. So this will be the first time, and certainly the first time for me. And I think it's going to be really cool.
It's going to be really cool. And you mentioned that this is something that brought a new era for Iced Earth. And I will go further than that and speak from experience, from my personal experience. This is a record, Matt, that created a lot, not only of Iced Earth fans, but metalheads overall. Pretty sure that it brought a lot of young people back in the day. This I'm talking '96 here, right?
Yep.
It created a new wave of people that were into the heaviest of music at the time. And I'm pretty sure that it has resonated and it will continue to resonate thanks to what you're bringing to the stages across Europe. And hopefully this spreads out to more places. Are there any plans to do so?
We're basically at the we're basically just waiting on local promoters and things like that to put us in places. We have a block of time that we can play. Because of my particular career and Freddie's more mine for sure. We're limited on time, so we have to kind of wait for that block of time to be filled. It's the last week of September, first week of October. We have a lot of those spots filled, but it's it's bigger than just one single promoter or our agent. Our agent's waiting for feedback and to get promoters to get us into these venues. So we're waiting on it. I mean, we're gonna be there regardless, but we want all those venues to get filled up. If we can play if we can play a show or two in Spain, that would be fantastic, right?
I will be ecstatic.
Right, but it's not up to us, and it never is. Whenever you're booking a tour, it's completely up to local promoters to get people, to get us in there. So we're waiting, man, and as soon as we fill up all the roster, fill up the entire 2 weeks of shows, then we'll let everybody know. But at this point, we don't have those. We only have certain shows that we know that are booked that are, we sold out one night in Athens already, and we're working on a second.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, we're working on it, man. If we can get outside of, our agent is Greek, and we're essentially on a Greek label. It's merged now with a German label, but our friends and all of our associates and folks like that are working out of Greece, and obviously, Iced Earth was always a big fan favorite in Greece, and now Ashes Varies is as well. So we're extremely appreciative of that and of our Greek fans. But I know we have fans, throughout Europe and throughout the world. And if we can get there, we will. We promise. But at this point, we're kind of relying on local promoters to get us in there.
Okay, very well. Well, fingers crossed you get it to as many places as possible. Spain, please bring the tour to Madrid. Promoters that are listening, it's only a stone's throw away from Greece, so I'm pretty sure you can manage that. And going back to the set list for Dark Saga, these are very demanding songs vocal wise. They were back in the day, they are still are now. Which of those are the ones that you are looking forward to challenge yourself with?
Heck, man, all of them. I think that's one of the cool things about it. I mean, obviously, everything's a little bit more of a challenge now. We're talking 30 years later, so my voice is 30 years older, and so obviously everything will be a challenge. But yeah, I'm just really looking forward to presenting this, preparing for it, and presenting it in a way that fans are going to really enjoy it. And I think that it's going to be, very cool. I'm counting on a lot of folks singing along with these. So I would imagine everybody's preparing their voices.
Yeah,
including.
I am as well. I am very, very much. And well, going back to Ashes of Ares, the album itself, we only have two advances, two singles on it. What are your promotions plans for it? Is there going to be a tour supporting the album as well?
Well, I mean, this tour is going to be supporting the album. Okay. We're going to do a few songs from the new record as well, but this is kind of it. We can only do what we can do. Music is not a full-time gig for me. And I do have other responsibilities in my life, in my career, and for my family. So I can't really afford to do a large tour at this. And Ashes of Ares can't really afford to do a large tour. This is not Iced Earth. We don't have the budget, and we're not a full-time touring band. So whenever I was able to tour with Iced Earth back when I was still in law enforcement, but I was able to do more extensive tours, just because Iced Earth was a giant, unstoppable force at that point. It really was just something. If you said Iced Earth, then venues wanted you to play there. Ashes of Ares is a different thing. So it's a little bit, it's a lot bit different. Obviously, we don't have the name recognition, even though we're going to be playing an entire Iced Earth record. Essentially, it's still not the same as Iced Earth, and part of that is obviously John Schaefer is not going to be there, and he's the father of of Iced Earth, and I understand that. I understand that there's not going to be that pull. So what we're doing is a tribute, obviously, to the Dark Saga. We're not portraying ourselves as Iced Earth in any stretch of the imagination, and therefore that's not going to be something that that maybe some promoters want, but I think that some do, obviously, and that's great. I'm happy that that they at least see me as a representation of what the Dark Saga is.
And you are, man. You are the human component of the sound. It's much easier to replicate an instrument signature sound than it is a voice, and that's something that you have. So I think that makes this really really special, and that's what makes fans have a hope to listen to the full thing over again. And yeah, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's it, man. That's I think that's what I've got. I mean, I hope that that folks understand that, and hopefully, again, hopefully some of the promoters we can get those spots filled, those days filled, and folks are going to be happy with that.
Okay, well, there you have it, guys. You please support the band. Make sure to follow them on this tour because it's going to be very, very exciting. And Matt, to wrap up this chat, I would like to ask you to share with us one of your favorite backstage moments.
Backstage moments. I don't know, man. There were so many. As far as did a lot of touring with Nevermore. Obviously, back in the day, those were always wacky times, man. The guys, something going on. We had all kinds of hijinks going on typically, but I can't think of anything in particular. But I just kind of always an overwhelming feeling of just having a great time with those guys. I remember sharing a lot of good laughs with Worrell and Jim and Van and Jeff and those were just a blast, man. And I can always think back on those times, and I start getting a little choked up, actually thinking about it just because of Worrell. But yeah, man, just good times, good times.
Okay, good times overall in the backstage. Well, Matt, thank you very much for joining us for this chat. We really are excited to seeing you back on the road, and we'll of course support Ashes of Ares as much as we can. Make sure to buy and stream the album on July 18th, which is coming out. And I have nothing more to say. Thank you.
All right, brother. Take care, man. Thank you.
If you like this interview, please like it, share with your friends. Make sure to buy and stream the album as we mentioned before. Follow Ashes of Ares and Matt wherever they go, and make sure to support them on stage. I'll see you next time, but until then, stay metal!